Before they knew it, over half a year had passed. During this time, Chengyu had taken charge of all accounts, large and small, within Hehuan Palace. He presided over daily affairs in the main hall with discipline and frugality, proving even more diligent than Chihuan herself, the palace's nominal master. The hall leaders beneath him had shifted from initial resistance and subtle defiance to becoming diligent and respectful. If nothing else, they no longer dared to neglect the daily morning assembly, one of Lord Chengyu's rules, modeled after the imperial court's morning audience. Hall leaders were required to arrive at the main hall before dawn, submit the previous day's accounts, report on affairs within their halls, and await Lord Chengyu's personal review. Lately, however, routines had gradually relaxed. His lordship had been keeping to himself, rarely making public appearances. I brought the berries you wanted." Chihuan hurried gleefully into the main hall, a pouch of blueberries in hand, and immediately spotted Chengyu reclining on the daybed with his eyes closed. The celestial being rested his head gracefully on one hand, his jade crown perfectly in place. It would have been a breathtaking scene, if not for the very prominent curve of his stomach. Chihuan tiptoed over, quietly poured the berries into a bowl, kicked off her shoes, and climbed up beside him. Happily, she pressed her ear against his belly. The baby was further along now, his pregnancy clearly showing. It wouldn't be long before the little one arrived. Chengyu had been through a lot these past few months, waking up in the middle of the night, relying on her kisses and soothing words to calm two active little ones. After taking a moment to send calming energy to the babies, Chihuan looked up at Chengyu. His features were as cool and elegant as ever. Even pregnant, he hadn't lost any of his transcendent aura. Her peach blossom eyes narrowing mischievously, she leaned closer, only for him to open his eyes abruptly. His dark, clear gaze turned toward her. Caught in the act, Chihuan simply grinned and habitually rested her hand on his belly. I was just talking to the baby. They've been so well-behaved lately." Chengyu frowned slightly and pushed himself upright with the help of the armrest. "What are you doing here?" "Bringing you berries." Utterly unfazed by his cool demeanor, Chihuan picked one up and held it out to him. "You've been loving these lately, right?" "I picked these myself." Chengyu lowered his gaze slightly and took a bite from her fingers. The berry was sweet and tart, delicious. Noticing a bit of juice on his lips, Chihuan couldn't resist quickly licking it clean with the tip of her tongue. She looked like a cat that got the cream, smiling at him. These are really rare, packed with spiritual energy. No one else could have picked them. I did good, right?" Chengyu's expression remained neutral. He gave a non-committal and picked up a book from the small table to read. But Chihuan had no intention of staying quiet. She chirped away beside his ear. When will our little one get here? I've been waiting forever." As exciting as it was that her celestial beauty was carrying her child, heavens above, it had been so long since she'd had any fun. Worst of all, with his belly so round, there was no way she could make a move even if she wanted to. The thought gave her pause. She cupped her cheeks and asked with sudden seriousness, "After the baby is born, will you go back to the way you were before?" A strange silence fell over them. After a long moment, Chengyu lifted his eyes, glanced at her sidelong, and curled his lips into a faint, mocking smile. "Guess." Chihuan blinked. She knew she'd put her foot in her mouth again, and laughed it off skillfully. "Just wondering, that's all." She was only thinking of him. "You used to have such a great body. Broad shoulders, narrow waist, long, well-proportioned limbs, smooth muscle tone. You look good in everything. What if after the baby, he didn't look the same anymore?" Panic set in. When she thought about it, wouldn't she be the one suffering in the end? She wanted her beautiful, transcendent Chengyu back. Even if it was for having babies, she couldn't compromise on aesthetics. That was a matter of principle. The more she thought about it, the more necessary this worry felt. But you wasn't cooperating. Sigh. This always happened. He'd get mad out of nowhere, and she never even understood why. Truly, a man's heart is as deep as the ocean. Muttering to herself, Chihuan sighed and looked up at the uneven cracks in the ceiling above. She suggested, Can we please fix the roof? It looks so ugly like this." Back when Chengyu had charged into the palace alone, he'd sliced the entire main hall in half. It was later repaired, but he'd specifically left the cracks in the ceiling, some strange preference of his. "This palace merely suffered in your place," Chengyu said, his fingers brushing her earlobe. He looked down at her with a faint, ambiguous smile. "If you don't behave in the future, you'll end up just like this hall." "Understood." After being scolded and threatened a bit, Chihuan slipped out of the main hall feeling rather deflated. So he left the roof broken just to warn her. After all she'd done, taking care of him and the baby, treating him like her most precious treasure, and he still acted so cold and untouchable, like being with her was some great sacrifice. Well, fine. She'd go find some sweet, obedient young man to play with and leave this celestial being to his own devices. With that in mind, Chihuan turned and headed toward the left guardian's hall. Now that she thought about it, it had been a long time since she'd seen Qin Ye. Ever since Chengyu had taken over the main hall, Ye had barely shown his face. He'd been as silent as if he'd never existed, and his entire section of the palace had remained closed off. She'd sneaked in once before, but hadn't found him. Worried Chengyu might find out, she'd left in a hurry. The more she thought about it, the angrier she got. Since when had she, the master of Hehuan Palace, become so henpecked? She was going to find Ye, whether he liked it or not. Muttering complaints under her breath, she soon arrived at the left guardian's quarters. Even after all these months, Qin Ye's military compound was still heavily guarded. The soldiers seemed surprised to see her and quickly knelt. "Greetings, Palace Master." Chihuan waved a hand. "Where's your guardian?" The guards exchanged uneasy glances. "Palace Master, Guardian Qin." "What's wrong with Guardian Qin?" Frowning at their hesitation, Chihuan grew anxious. Not daring to hide it any longer, they replied truthfully, reporting to the Palace Master. 4 months ago, Guardian Qin sparred with the consort. And then, Guardian Qin was seriously injured. His golden core was damaged. He hasn't come out since. What? Without another word, Chihuan formed a hand seal and flew inside. Ye, where are you? She never imagined Ye would fight Chengyu again and get so badly hurt. Good grief, she couldn't even beat Chengyu herself anymore, let alone Ye. Looking around anxiously as she flew, she finally spotted a slender figure meditating in a garden. Ye. She landed directly beside him and knelt down urgently. Ye, are you all right? Qin Ye's handsome face was pale. Hearing her, he slowly opened his eyes. His dry lips parted, and a hoarse voice escaped. "Master!" Chihuan's heart ached. She cupped his face angrily. "How could he hurt you like this?" Qin Ye's brow moved slightly. After a moment, he lowered his gaze. "This subordinate is fine." "Fine?" She pressed her fingers to his wrist. "Your golden core is damaged. Your meridians are shattered. How is that fine? So vicious. What a heartless snake." Spitting out the words furiously, she placed her palm over his chest and began channeling spiritual energy to heal him. "Ye, don't worry. I'll make sure you get justice for this." "Thank you, Master," Qin Ye said softly, "but that won't be necessary." "Why not? This subordinate does not wish to come between you and the consort." "Ye, you always think of others first," Chihuan grumbled. "And here I thought he was some kind of celestial being. Who knew he could be so cruel?" "Ye, you're the best." "NNGH." Qin Ye suddenly groaned. Chihuan quickly withdrew her energy and steadied him by the waist. "Ye, what's wrong?" Qin Ye didn't answer, leaning against her weakly. They were extremely close now, their breaths mingling. The faint, tantalizing scent of blood hung in the air, stirring something in Chihuan. It had been so long since she'd dual-cultivated with anyone. With Chengyu in his condition, it was naturally impossible. Poor Jade, maiden technique. She was practically starving it. Lost in the thought, she turned her head almost unconsciously, and their lips met perfectly. The image of her white moonlight, currently carrying her child, flashed through her mind. A brief flicker of guilt was quickly overwhelmed by temptation. Her arms tightened around his lean waist, and she fell into the kiss. Suddenly, a cold light flashed. Chihuan's eyes flew open. She rolled aside, pulling Qin Ye with her, and looked up straight into a pair of ice-cold eyes. A shiver ran down her spine. Staring at that pale, grim face not far away, her mind screamed, "Crap, crap, crap. Caught red-handed. I'm so dead." But even though she was trembling inside, she still mustered her courage, stood up, and stepped in front of Qin Ye. You, what do you think you're doing?" The surroundings seemed to fall into an eerie silence, not even a whisper of wind remaining. Chengyu's fingers were tightly wrapped around the hilt of his sword, the corners of his eyes faintly tinged with crimson as he stared expressionlessly at the two across from him. Chihuan, naturally sensing the immense pressure rolling off him, trembled slightly and shouted with a guilty conscience. What are you looking at? You beat Ye half to death. I won't let a vicious." Before she could even finish her outcry, the long sword in Chengyu's hand suddenly dissolved. He braced himself against a nearby tree, his brow furrowed into a deep frown, his thin lips pressed into a tight line. His other hand instinctively moved to rest on his swollen belly. Seeing him like this, Chihuan completely forgot about who was vicious or not. She dashed to his side, supporting him by the waist as she looked up, flustered. Are you going to labor?" Chengyu's slender eyebrows were tightly knit. He shook off her hand directly. "Get lost. Don't touch me." Perhaps because of the pain, the icy edge in his voice had largely faded. it sounded more like he was sulking. They were her babies, after all. Frantic with worry, Chihuan stroked his belly, coaxing him urgently. You, stop being difficult. Let's get back to Hehuan Hall. I'll find the best physician to help you. Without another thought, Chihuan wrapped an arm around him and vanished into a streak of light. By the time Wu Shi and the others arrived at Hehuan Hall with the physician, an impenetrable barrier had already been erected around the hall. The palace master told us to bring a physician, so why is it sealed off? Huan was utterly puzzled, trying manually to dispel the barrier. But no matter what she tried, the barrier didn't budge an inch. Could it be? His lordship is giving birth. Chi Su asked, not without a hint of gossipy curiosity. They'd all heard the palace master say his lordship was carrying her child, but everyone was half skeptical. After all, men giving birth was unheard of. But these past few months, his lordship hadn't made a single public appearance. Could it really be because he was pregnant? Very likely, Su Ruffing nodded solemnly. Her reaction earlier was so urgent. It must be related to the child. So, do we still go in? Wuxi observed for a moment. Let's wait here for now. Unlike the chatter outside the hall, inside the bedchamber, Chihuan was panicking, bustling around like a spinning top, fetching water, changing it, wiping the sweat from Chengyu's brow. You, why won't you let the physicians in? What are we supposed to do now? When Chengyu sealed the chamber, Chihuan had been completely baffled. If he wasn't letting anyone else in, did that mean she had to deliver the babies? The problem was, she'd never had children herself. She had zero experience. Shut up. Gritting his teeth against the indescribable pain, Chengyu forced out the words. But Chihuan, anxious as an ant on a hot pan, was in no state to shut up. Tears welling in her eyes, she clutched his hand, veins bulging, and launched into another stream of dramatic vows. You have to pull through. I'll never be mean to you again. I'll give you anything you want. I'll pick berries for you every day. I'll listen to everything you say. Please don't die on me. Chengyu was already irritable from the waves of pain, and with the incessant noise in his ear, he was on the verge of outright fury. Your belly, it's glowing. Chihuan's eyes widened. She could clearly see, beneath the clothing over his abdomen, two sources of light darting and swimming around frantically. These had to be the two little ones. Just as delight spread across her face, Chihuan heard a low, strained groan escape Chengyu's throat. His brows were furrowed even tighter. He seemed to be in even greater agony than before. Heart aching with worry and panic, Chihuan stroked his belly, muttering, "Be good, little ones. Stop moving around. Your father is in so much pain. If you keep fidgeting, Mom's going to get angry. You little things think I can't handle you?" Seeing the two lights, showed no intention of stopping. Chihuan shot to her feet and rolled up her sleeves, ready to teach them a lesson with a spell. But the next moment, two intense beams of light shot into her eyes, nearly blinding her. My eyes! Howling, Chihuan clutched her eyes, staggering blindly in circles by the bed. Suddenly, she seemed to step on something soft, followed immediately by a weak, high-pitched cry, like an infant's whimper. Chihuan froze. Then, as if realizing something, she desperately tried to blink her eyes open. Once somewhat adjusted, she looked down, and sure enough, there were two palm-sized white tiger cubs sprawled at her feet. The cubs' eyes weren't even open yet. Their four paws splayed weakly on the ground, mouths wide open, emitting the high-pitched cries unique to young tiger cubs. Chihuan was so overjoyed she nearly jumped for joy. She bent down, scooping one into each arm, and laughed heartily. They really are my babies. The tiger cubs seemed dissatisfied with their mother's rough handling, paws paddling restlessly, letting out continuous cries. But their protests were lost on Chihuan. She covered the little ones with kisses, patted their small heads, held them in her palms, and kissed them over and over. Only after a good while did she suddenly remember Chengyu, who had just given birth and was still lying on the bed. She turned around quickly and was amazed to see that Chengyu's previously swollen belly was now completely flat. His robes hung loosely, his waist and abdomen as slender as if he'd never carried children at all. "You, how are you feeling?" Chihuan asked, sitting beside him with the tiger cubs in her arms. At that moment, he was half reclining against the pillows, his temples slightly damp, eyes lightly closed, breathing shallowly through his nose, one hand hanging weakly at his side, clearly exhausted and drained. The sight of him, so beautifully fragile, made Chihuan's heart ache unbearably. Without a second thought, she leaned in, covering his thin lips with hers, channeling a steady stream of spiritual energy into him. Chengyu's thick lashes fluttered. His dark eyes slowly opened, abruptly meeting a pair of eyes extremely close to his. He turned his head slightly, and their connected lips instantly parted. You're awake." Delighted, Chihuan eagerly showed him the tiger cubs in her arms. You gave birth to two little tigers for me." The cubs seemed to sense their father's presence, crying out more eagerly, squirming and clawing, trying to burrow toward Chengyu. Chihuan quickly tucked both little ones back against her chest, lowering her head and speaking to them as if scolding. Babies, your father is still very weak. You need to be good and not disturb him, understand? Just then, Chengyu reached out. His long, slender fingers gently brushed over one cub's ear. The round little head was completely covered by his palm, and as if by magic, the cub gradually calmed down, even nuzzling into his hand, sticking out its tongue to lick him, mewing like a kitten. They really like you. Chihuan was amazed, but also a little jealous. She was their mother too. Why weren't they licking her? Thinking this, she abruptly lifted both cubs, scrutinizing them carefully, then turned to the man on the bed. One's the big brother, one's the little sister. How about we name them Harmony and Unity? Chengyu's brow twitched slightly. His dark lashes lifted, his night-like black eyes silently fixed on her. Chihuan grinned. Harmony and Unity have such a lovely meaning, don't you think? The corner of Chengyu's eye tilted up slightly. After a long moment, he finally spoke, his voice faint. Surname Qi? Of course, Chihuan said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. My children naturally take my surname. Is there a problem? Chengyu let out a very soft, almost inaudible laugh, his thin lips moving. Come here. Uncertain of his intention, Chihuan reasoned that he was weak right now. Probably not much of a threat. So, holding the tiger cubs, she scooted closer with a grin. What is it, Before the words had fully left her mouth, he suddenly grabbed her by the collar, his pale lips brushing her ear as he murmured in a low voice. You didn't think what happened today was over, did you? Chihuan blinked her flirtatious, peach blossom eyes, deliberately pretending not to understand, and grinned sheepishly at him. Humph. You've worked so hard to give birth to our little ones for me. Let's just put today's incident behind us. But you can't bully Yi anymore, okay? Chengyu's well-defined fingers slowly pinched her cheek. Did this lord not tell you that if you're dishonest again, you'll end up just like this hall? Ow, that hurts. Chihuan yelped loudly. She put on a bit of weight in her face recently, and being manhandled like this made it even more painful. Her fair skin instantly turned a large patch of red. I wasn't dishonest. Chihuan quickly clarified. Asterisk, why was he so strong right after giving birth? Asterisk, did you enjoy your affair today? Chengyu showed no intention of letting go, and with a face like a banished immortal, he gazed at her expressionlessly. Chihuan was forced to bend at the waist, looking wronged as she stared at him. I didn't have an affair, so you merely embraced and kissed? That was just an accident, Chihuan skillfully argued. I just accidentally bumped Yi's mouth back then. You wouldn't be so petty, would you? Chengyu was almost made to laugh by her infuriating antics. Chihuan, do you take me for blind? Or are you blind yourself? Chihuan pouted, silently hugging the little cub in her arms, and mumbled indistinctly. I already said I didn't do it on purpose. Do you have to be so relentless? Besides, you even disbanded the Fenghua Pavilion. What more do you want? Chengyu's expression grew even more solemn. A moment later, his thin lips parted slightly. In life, one should be loyal to their partner until death. If one is fickle and abandons them at the first sign of trouble, they should be sliced into 1,000 pieces and never be reborn. Chihuan blinked her large eyes, completely stunned by this declaration. Good heavens, according to him, someone like her, who passes through a garden of flowers without a single petal clinging, wouldn't she be condemned to the 18 layers of hell? Help, she just wanted to cuddle with beauties. She didn't want to tie herself down completely. Asterisk, she never expected Lord Chengyu to be such a pedantic person. This completely didn't fit the requirements of their joyful union palace for a main consort. Asterisk, never mind. She'd placate him for now. When the opportunity arose later, she'd play as she pleased. Anyway, she could never give up the entire forest for one tree, even if that tree was the most beautiful of all. Asterisk. You spoke so well. I promise you, I will never betray you in this life. Chihuan's expression was incredibly sincere. Her claws pawed at his hand that was pinching her cheek, and she grinned sheepishly. Can you let go of me now? My face really hurts. Before Chengyu could speak, the little cubs, sturdy and round-headed, seized the moment of her laxness to scramble out of her pocket and tumble into Chengyu's arms. Seeing this, Chihuan quickly offered a suggestion. Are you hungry? I'll get you something to eat. The babies must be hungry too. Chengyu glanced at the two little ones, and the strength in his hand suddenly lessened. Go boil some hot milk and bring it in. Okay. Time flew by, and another month passed in the blink of an eye. Chengyu's body recovered incredibly quickly, showing no signs of having given birth. However, the two little tigers, apart from being able to run, jump, and walk, hadn't grown much taller. They only knew how to toddle around their parents, calling out in milky voices, which made Chengyu frown. Chihuan fed goat milk to the little cubs while looking at the man sitting upright at the desk, explaining, "You, our white tiger clan has a pure and noble bloodline. We just grow a bit slower than others. I myself only transformed into human form when I was 5. As she spoke, she held up 5 fingers, very earnestly defending her cubs. Don't think she couldn't tell. His gaze clearly showed disdain for the 2 little cubs, as if they were useless. No way. Her offspring were definitely not useless. It takes 5 years to transform into human form, and you're proud of that." Chengyu suddenly blurted out. Chihuan choked on her breath. "What's wrong with taking 5 years to transform? Haven't I still become the most powerful great white tiger?" She mumbled quietly to herself for a bit. After the little ones finished licking the goat milk from their bowls, she carried them and thump-thumped to Chengyu. I'm done feeding them." The 2 little tiger cubs, following her hand, jumped onto Chengyu's desk, leaving a series of paw prints on the pristine Xian paper. Chengyu's brush tip paused, and he looked up with considerable displeasure. "Didn't I tell you to wash them clean?" "I did wash them," Chihuan quickly disclaimed. "They just got dirty again themselves later." Who told the little cubs to be so naughty? They rolled around outside and got all dusty and dirty. She couldn't possibly wash them every day, could she? If she spent all her time washing children, how could she still be the palace mistress of the joyful Hehuan Palace? Chengyu looked at the dark, smudged marks on her light-colored dress, finally losing his patience. He frowned and chastised. "Look at yourself, disheveled, grimy, and with an unclean hem. What kind of mother is that?" Chihuan realized he was scolding her like a cub, and she was very unhappy. She immediately raised her chin in defiance. "All you do is order me around. I said let Aishi and the others take care of the cubs, but you refused, and then you complain about this and that. If you keep this up, I'll get angry." With a thud, the ink brush was set down, startling Chihuan into taking a step back. "Having you do a few things means I'm ordering you around?" Chengyu's brows lifted slightly, and he genuinely began to reason with her seriously. "Since the children are born, what have you done? Spending all day pondering your jade maiden cultivation technique. Wasn't that for our happy life together?" Chihuan became excited at the mention of this, eagerly hopped over to him, gently moved the 2 little cubs aside, and nestled into his embrace like a small bird. Can we have some fun tonight?" Chengyu looked down at her seductive, silken eyes, and his brow furrowed involuntarily. "Is there nothing else in your mind besides these things?" Seeing his expression, Chihuan's enthusiasm grew even stronger. She clung to his slender neck, sniffing and kissing, sweet words pouring out as if they cost nothing. "Who told you to be my celestial immortal? How can you smell so good? Besides you, I'll never be attracted to anyone else again." Chengyu's Adam's apple bobbed. His breathing was already somewhat ragged, and a large patch of red had spread up his neck. He had to gently restrain her, then pressed his lips together and said hoarsely, "The children are still here. Moderate yourself." Chihuan, with a flick of her hand, threw out a barrier, completely encasing the 2 little tigers huddled together. Then, she impatiently kissed his thin lips. I've missed you so much these past few days. Tonight, I absolutely must sleep with you," Chihuan demanded firmly. Recently, Chengyu had been very wary of her, not sleeping in the same bed at all. He had only placed a small wooden bed on the other side of the sleeping chamber, leaving her to lament daily that she couldn't eat the beauty she guarded, which had made her quite ravenous. Palace mistress. Just as Chihuan was intimately cuddling with Chengyu, Wuxi suddenly rushed in from outside. After stumbling upon their close embrace, she immediately covered her face and retreated, announcing through the door, "Palace mistress, Protector Qin is critically ill and wishes to see you one last time." "What?" Chihuan almost instantly jumped up. "He is critically ill? Are you sure you're not mistaken?" The last time she saw him, he still had his foundational cultivation. It had only been a month since they last met, so how could he be critically ill? This subordinate saw it with her own eyes, Wuxi affirmed. Protector Qin's healing failed, I'm afraid. Before she could finish, Chihuan had already teleported out of the hall, heading straight to the left. Wuxi watched the hasty figure, then unconsciously glanced inside the hall. She saw Chengyu's face, as cold as ever, unhurriedly organizing the ledgers on the desk, soon disappearing into the halo of light. Chihuan practically flew to the left hall. As soon as she entered, she saw the young man lying quietly on the bed, his dark clothes making him appear even more frail. Chihuan lunged towards the figure in the bed curtains, simultaneously reaching out to take his pulse. Sure enough, she found his dantian was weak, almost depleted. Without thinking, Chihuan channeled spiritual energy into him. The motionless person finally showed a slight reaction. "My lord, How are you feeling? Chihuan cradled his head in her arms, tears streaming down her face. Qin Ye tremblingly raised his hand and gently caressed her tear-filled eyes. Will my lord also cry for her subordinate? Chihuan cried even harder. What are you saying? Am I really that cold and heartless in your mind? Qin Ye curved his lips into a faint smile. My lord is naturally the most affectionate. My lord, I'm afraid this time. I don't have much time left. Don't talk nonsense. Chihuan sharply rebuked. I won't let anything happen to you. Qin Ye, however, shook his head and gazed deeply at her. If I die here and now, will my lord forget me? I said you won't die. Chihuan roared furiously, channeling spiritual energy into him as if it cost nothing. She had never imagined Yi would one day leave her. After all, he had accompanied her for so long, becoming an inseparable part of her. Just the thought of him leaving her filled her with an uncontrollable, maddening rage, as if she were going berserk. Suddenly, a white light flashed outside the bed curtains, and a tall, solitary figure stood there. Chihuan was utterly distraught at that moment. Seeing him, the instigator of this misfortune, her anger instantly flared, and her temper surged. What are you doing here? It's all your fault. If you hadn't injured Yi, he wouldn't have been so severely wounded. Chengyu's already pale face became even colder. He swiftly sealed her mouth with a raised finger, sending her to a corner of the palace. You had best reflect on what you just said. MMPH. Chihuan desperately twisted her body, but couldn't break free. She could only watch helplessly as he approached Yi. So anxious, she wished she could rush over and pull him in her arms. Chihuan suddenly calmed down. It seemed Chengyu had no intention of harming Yi. Instead, he was healing him. I don't need your salvation, cough, cough, cough. Within the bed curtains, Qin Ye stared fixedly at the white-robed immortal who was forcibly repairing his inner core. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was almost contorted with rage. Chengyu completely ignored his struggles, his fair, slender fingers emitting waves of sacred light. Why? Qin Ye let out a low growl, like a trapped beast. He would rather die in his lord's arms than live on his charity. Of course, it's because you cannot die. Chengyu finally deigned to speak, casually revealing the secret in his heart. You deliberately destroyed your own foundation, didn't you, just to risk everything and use your life to make her regret? He slowly curved his lips, a hint of malevolence rising inexplicably. He still possessed the face of a banished immortal. Yet Qin Ye's hair stood on end instantly, as if he were facing the most evil demon, and his whole body trembled uncontrollably. Chengyu bent slightly, looking down from above, meeting Qin Ye's shocked and doubtful gaze. His lips parted and closed, coldly and scornfully uttering 8 words. To stake your life on this, you are not worthy. Are you thirsty, hungry, or tired? Chihuan, holding 2 little tiger cubs, eagerly circled Chengyu, chirping with a smiling face. Just talk to me. Chengyu didn't speak to her. He simply took the little tigers from her arms, stroked their furry heads, and put them aside to play. Chihuan pouted, tugging at his sleeve and swaying back and forth, her face a picture of pitifulness. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Last time, when Yi was critically ill, it was Yu who, despite past grievances, used his immortal blood to save him. But at the time, she not only misunderstood him, but also scolded him indiscriminately, which now made him unwilling to say a single word to her, not even letting her hold the cubs. I didn't mean it that day. Chihuan coaxed, her voice sweet and gentle. I was just so overcome with anger that I snapped at you. Do you really have to be so petty? Chengyu calmly brushed her hand away. If the palace mistress has time to cling to me, why not go keep Protector Qin company? After all, he's just recovered from serious injuries, hasn't he? Chihuan bent down, shamelessly burrowing into his arms. My true consort. How could I go keep another man company? Chengyu directly lifted her away, looking at her with a half-smile. For someone as malicious as me, it would be best if the palace mistress kept her distance. Chihuan let out a squeal, completely disregarding his words and hugging his neck tightly, nuzzling him like a small animal. You're not malicious at all. You're the kindest, the most beautiful, the most benevolent celestial immortal. You're still my dearest darling, my guiding light. I love you the most. She always had a way with coaxing people, playful antics, rolling around, and sweet talk, all deployed. Even though he knew her nature was hard to change, he ultimately couldn't resist her honeyed words, wrapped in layer after layer of sweetness. He indulged her, letting her cling to him and wear him down, until he once again conceded. I promise I'll never snap at you again. Chihuan nestled in his arms, her voice soft and sweet. Oh, if only she had known earlier that this beauty would be so hard to appease. She wouldn't have been so impulsive then. Do your promises ever count? He scoffed, lowering his gaze. Of course, Chihuan declared, holding up 3 fingers. I guarantee it on my tiger honor. She tilted her head to meet his eyes, which were like night stars, and cited an example with a hint of guilt. My word usually counts for something. Didn't I keep my promise last time, and send you back to the immortal sect? Chengyu's brow twitched, his expression subtly changing. Was that keeping your promise? She clearly just discarded him like a worn-out shoe after she was done playing. Seeing his sudden change of expression, Chihuan knew she had overplayed her hand. She immediately clamped her mouth shut, her eyes darting around. Suddenly, she scooped up the little cubs who were playing and licking each other nearby. Holding one in each hand before him, her own pitiful face nestled in the middle. You, look how cute the babies are. Can you really bear to be angry with their mommy? Awoo, awoo. The little tiger cubs were clearly displeased with their mommy, using them to beg for forgiveness. They opened their mouths wide and cried out, their tiny paws scrambling to climb towards Chengyu. Chihuan hissed, lowering her head to whisper fiercely, You 2 little rascals, cooperate a bit. Can't you see mommy's busy here? Before she could finish, Chengyu rescued the white tiger cub from her evil clutches, frowning as he admonished. Do you even look like a mother? Chihuan watched the little cub happily rolling around in his sleeve, then shamelessly leaned in with a smile, tilting her head up to look at him. You, have you forgiven me now? Chengyu's eyes darkened slightly. When will you be a little more serious? Always so frivolous and irresponsible. Do you want to corrupt the children? Chihuan rubbed against his neck affectionately, saying without a hint of pressure, It's enough for our family to have just one serious person like you. Otherwise, how boring would it be? Hee You, I just love how serious you are. Sit properly. Awoo. After Tuanshuan and Yuanyuan were born, the morning assemblies that Chengyu had set up earlier began to get on track. The masters of each hall had to arrive at Hehuan Palace before the hour of Mao, 5 to 7 a.m. Every day, diligently report their work and submit their account books. That's all for today. Chengyu drew a stroke with his vermilion brush, finally showing clemency. Wu Shi and the others felt as if they had received a great amnesty, quickly bowing and exiting the great hall. Thank heavens, it's rare for his honored one not to pick many faults today. Chi Su breathed a long sigh of relief. Beside her, Yinhuan shook her head repeatedly upon hearing this. Being on edge every single day, I can't live like this. Exactly, Su Ruffing sighed dramatically, looking up at the sky. Why must the assembly be before the hour of Mao? This old granny has never gotten up this early, even in her last life. Right next to them, Wu Shixin yawned, her panda eyes visible as she grumbled. It's inhumane. Get it straight. We're Hehuan Palace, not his immortal sex deliberation hall. Seeing them all looking dejected, Wu Shi couldn't help but tease. Why don't you go say that inside? Chi Su immediately rolled her eyes. I'd love to, if you'd lend me 10 times the courage. It wasn't that they hadn't tried to resist, but ever since his honored one took power, all their weaknesses fell into his hands. His divine sense was so powerful that no trace could escape his notice. Most importantly, all of them sisters combined were no match for him. How could they possibly cause trouble now? They dared not step out of line at all. All right, stop complaining. In my opinion, things are quite good now. Unlike the bitter resentment of the other 4, Wu Shi looked perfectly at ease, feeling much more relaxed overall. She had been longing for someone to rein in these mischievous monkeys. Initially, she had also doubted Lord Chengyu's intentions, but after some time, she realized that his honored one's goal wasn't to seize Hehuan Palace by force. Rather, he was merely reorganizing it according to rules, just like he managed the immortal sect, elevating its efficiency by more than one level. Haven't you noticed that many more cultivators have come here, seeking renown this year? That's all thanks to his honored one, Wu Shi lectured her argument sound. Besides, his honored one has to manage Hehuan Palace every day and also take care of the young masters. How hard must that be? Can't you be a little more understanding? Sigh, it's our palace mistress who's blessed. Not only does she have a celestial immortal like his honored one, who seems untouched by mortal affairs, bearing children for her, but she also gets to sleep in every day. Chi Su exclaimed sincerely, shouting with envy. If it were me, I'd wake up laughing in my dreams. So lively this early in the morning. Huh? Along the stone path ahead, Chihuan walked over, carrying 2 little cubs. She looked full of spirit and in excellent spirits. The little ones have been exceptionally well-behaved today, drinking their milk all by themselves early in the morning and then pestering her to come find Daddy. Boss, the sun's already high in the sky, all right? Yinhuan retorted, her arms crossed, as if the words resentment were practically plastered across her face. Palace mistress, please help us plead with his honored one. See if the daily assemblies can be postponed a bit. All us sisters are so tired. Having finally bumped into their palace mistress, the few of them quickly gathered around, looking pitifully at their boss, hoping she would rescue them. Before Chihuan could even speak, the two little tigers in her arms scrambled up her shoulders, one on each side, like little sentinels, yelping defensively at the chattering weird aunties. Though the little white tigers were small, their eyes were bright and full of spirit, looking far more imposing than when they were first born. Wow, the little masters are so adorable. Look at their fierce yet cute little faces. They're going to melt my heart. Come, come, darlings, let older sister give you a hug. Clearly, their display of defiance had no effect. Instead, they were cruelly teased. Just as several pairs of evil claws were about to reach out, Chihuan slapped them away. What are you all doing? Chihuan swept a disdainful glance over them. How old are you? Still calling yourselves older sister? I'm telling you, don't take advantage of my cubs. The two little tiger cubs seemed quite startled by the commotion. Though they continued to yelp loudly on the surface, their tiny paws couldn't help but retract, appearing both cowardly and fierce, yet utterly endearing. However, Chihuan's ears were almost deafened by their cries, so she simply pulled the two little ones from her shoulders back in her arms, squinting her eyes in warning. No more yelping. The little ones closed their mouths pitifully, their furry round ears twitching. Suddenly, they jumped out of Chihuan's embrace and scurried on their short little legs towards the inner hall. You two get back here, Chihuan shouted, pointing at them, not forgetting to mutter, oh no, those two little rascals are definitely going to go tell on me again. Saying this, she hurriedly lifted her skirt and rushed into the hall. She couldn't let them spout nonsense in front of Yu. Palace mistress, about the morning assembly. Su Rufeng, still unwilling to give up, reminded her from behind. Oh, I know, Yu. As soon as Chihuan entered the door, she rushed to the desk. At this moment, the two little tigers were already gathered in front of him. Awoo! The tiger cubs squatted on the desk, where Chengyu usually worked, making awoo baby cries. Their short tails wagged back and forth, and they cocked their little heads, staring at him unblinkingly, their round black eyes full of grievance. Yu, don't listen to their nonsense. I didn't bully them, Chihuan explained very skillfully. There was nothing she could do. These two little rascals loved to tattle. As soon as she spoke a little louder, they would pitifully scrunch up their faces, then run to Yu and add fuel to the fire. And then Yu would surely give her a lecture. Seriously, she was the palace lord of Hehuan Palace. Didn't she even have the right to discipline her own cubs? Besides, she was already very gentle, all right? She had never been so patient with her own mother. These two little cubs didn't know how lucky they were. Tattling on her every day, they really deserved a beating. As the saying goes, spoil the rod, spoil the child. She'd find an opportunity to teach them a lesson. How can you not even soothe the child? Chengyu put down his ink brush, soothingly stroked the little tigers' heads, and raised an eyebrow, slightly displeased. Hearing this, Chihuan grinned, bounced playfully to his side, wrapped her arms around his arm, and swayed back and forth. Yu, I only know how to coax you. How would I know how to coax children? Chengyu's face still held that serious, aloof expression, but a barely perceptible curve softened the corner of his eye. He tilted his head, glancing at her. What else can you do besides being glib-tongued? Chihuan smoothly kissed him, then licked her lips and said, and kiss you too. The little tigers nearby, seeing the two of them engrossed in their own play, squeezed between them discontentedly, reminding their father that they had just been wronged. Chihuan hummed, then turned and sat directly into Chengyu's lap. She shot a provocative glance at the two cubs, then hugged him tightly. Yu, can future court meetings be postponed a bit? Yu and the others are all so tired. Chihuan recalled the complaints of her subordinates and struck while the iron was hot, making the suggestion. Chengyu sat upright and proper, remaining unmoving no matter how she clung and tangled with him. You're quite considerate of your subordinates. Chihuan actually thought he was praising her, and immediately gave a simple, honest smile. Of course. Go ask around. I, Chihuan, am the best of my sisters. Chengyu's lips curved slightly. His long, slender fingers patted her upturned head. Since that's the case, then from now on, you shall share weal and woe with your good sisters and attend the morning court together. The tiger. Chihuan's peach blossom eyes widened like copper bells. Her smile froze instantly, and then she let out a loud wail. No way. Making her get up before dawn every day. How is that different from murdering her? Yu, I have to feed the cubs milk every morning. I can't leave that early. Chihuan quickly found an excuse. These days, she would leisurely come to Hehuan Hall only after feeding the cubs, roughly glancing through the accounts he had handled to stay informed. As for her, she simply didn't like getting bogged down in details. After all, happiness was most important in life, so she was willing to delegate authority, oversee the big picture, and enjoy her leisure. But Chengyu was clearly not of the same style as her. He was extremely organized in his work, and his spiritual sense was incredibly powerful. No wonder the Xianmen sect used to be so prosperous and impregnable. From now on, Tuan Yuan can come directly to the hall for meals. You, Chihuan whimpered, calling out, and began rubbing her neck against him, whining, "How can I, a dignified palace lord, attend morning court with them? Please, just let me off the hook." Chengyu was completely unmoved. As a palace lord, you should set an example. How can you be so idle and undisciplined all day long? Chihuan looked at his righteous and serious demeanor, let out an AO sound, and pounced to bite his thin lips, not letting go until both their breaths were ragged. A faint flush of anger appeared on Chengyu's pale face. He restrained her with one hand, his brow furrowed tightly. "Can't you just talk properly?" Chihuan said smugly. "Who told you to put on such a noble and aloof act all day long? What's wrong with me kissing you?" After having her fun, she instantly leaped far away and quickly ran outside. "Anyway, I'm not going to the court meeting. You can forget about forcing me." Chihuan naturally didn't obediently listen and attend the daily court meetings on time. Chengyu also couldn't be bothered to truly restrain her. For a tiger beast, naturally fond of freedom, the tighter you try to control her, the more boisterous she became. As long as she behaved herself and didn't cause any trouble, he didn't mind putting the accounts aside for now. However, for Chihuan, not causing a little trouble was impossible. That day, she was strolling with the cubs in the garden when she happened to run into Wu Shi and others, who were walking toward her, chatting and laughing. She quickly waved enthusiastically. "Greetings, Palace Lord." The several women gracefully curtsied, their gazes involuntarily falling upon the little tigers at Chihuan's feet. "Palace Lord, please let me hold the little masters." Chi Su's eyes brimmed with maternal love, her gaze practically glued to the cubs. The two little ones seemed to remember this group of strange aunties. Their pink, tender paws scratched the ground, their noses snorted, then they cocked their heads and burrowed under Chihuan's skirt. Chihuan helplessly rolled her eyes at them. These two cubs were just like their father, bad-tempered and arrogant. Sometimes they even dared to roar at her. They were incredibly brazen. "If you want to hold one, go have your own," Chihuan said. The cubs didn't like being petted by strangers, so Chihuan naturally wouldn't force them. She sent away Chi Su, who was eagerly trying to get closer, and said, "Coincidentally, I have something I need to discuss with you all." Wu Shi looked at her in surprise. "You actually have something to discuss with us?" Their palace lord always acted on a whim, never consulting them on anything she decided. "What's so strange about that?" Chihuan pouted and huffed softly. "It's all Chengyu's fault." "What's wrong with the venerable lord?" Chi Su asked, her face full of curiosity. Chihuan sighed deeply, grumbling unhappily. "Ever since we got married, he won't let me do this, won't let me do that, and the Fanghua courtyard has been disbanded. Now, I don't even have a place to have fun. Don't you think he's going too far?" And the worst part was, he never let her touch him at night. He just put on this air of purity and aloofness in front of her. What kind of nonsense was that? Eating vegetarian food every day would lead to malnutrition. All right. I never thought even you, Palace Lord, would be under such strict husbandly control. The women all clicked their tongues upon hearing this, shaking their round fans with a sigh. Chihuan glared fiercely at them. "I'm telling you, stop gloating over here. Last time I almost got myself into trouble pleading for you, so this time you absolutely have to help me." "Boss, if you can't do anything, what help can we be?" Inhuan spread her hands. Su Rufeng also nodded in agreement. "Exactly, Palace Lord. We're just small fries. How can we help you?" Chihuan's eyes curved into crescents, and she smiled at Su Rufeng. "I've already thought of a plan, often. This time, it's all up to you." Su Rufeng's relaxed expression immediately froze, her head full of question marks. "Me?" Chihuan smiled even more brightly. "Hee, that's right, it's you." Su Rufeng stood alone outside Hehuan Hall, listening to the absurd conversation between the palace lord and the venerable lord inside, wishing she could die. She didn't know what sin she had committed to be caught by the palace lord, who said she wanted her to explain the rules of their Hehuan Palace to the venerable lord. Although her Hanzhong Hall was indeed in charge of laws and scriptures, seriously, that was a mortal venerable Chengyu, who had split Hehuan Hall in half with one sword. Was it really appropriate to apply their Hehuan Palace's rules for restraining male consorts to him? What's more, after day of morning court, she was now utterly terrified of this venerable lord, who never showed his emotions. Asking her to do such a thing was practically a death sentence. Su Rufeng shivered in the cold wind, silently listening to the palace lord's incessant chatter inside, before she finally cut to the chase. "You, I've said so much. What are your thoughts?" Chengyu was currently sitting perfectly upright in the main seat, holding an ink brush and writing unhurriedly on the paper, his posture extremely dignified and elegant. In contrast, Chihuan, who was circling around him, chattering incessantly and completely disregarding her demeanor, was like a clingy large cat. You, pay attention to me. Stop writing those things. Chihuan couldn't stand his indifferent demeanor anymore. She simply reached out, snatched the ink brush, and then slammed the Xian paper face down on the desk. Chengyu didn't seem to mind her barbaric behavior much. He slowly wiped his hands, then lowered his gaze to her. What exactly are you trying to convey? Chihuan saw that he was finally looking at her properly. She tossed the ink brush behind her and quickly leaned closer to him. Say, it's like this, you look. Our Hehuan Palace. It has a large family and a large enterprise, so it has rules, right? Chengyu's eyebrow twitched slightly. So? Chihuan's eyes lit up, seeing a chance. So, today we're going to put these rules into practice. After she finished speaking, she enthusiastically called out towards the outside of the hall. Offing, come in quickly. However, after a long moment, no one came in. Chihuan hissed. Just as she was getting impatient, a figure, shoulders hunched, shuffled hesitantly in from outside. Seeing Su Rufing's timid appearance, Chihuan worriedly sent a telepathic message to her. Offing, you absolutely must hold your ground. Don't let me down at a crucial moment. Such a grand display. Chengyu glanced indifferently at Su Rufeng, his dark eyes looking at her subtly. Of course, Chihuan chuckled, then said to Su Rufeng, Offing, what are you standing there for? Hurry up and read out the rules of our Hehuan Palace to the main consort. Su Rufeng, with a face like a bitter gourd on the verge of tears, didn't dare to look up. As if making a heroic sacrifice, she pulled out a small notebook and began to read verbatim. Hehuan Palace Rules for Men. Article 1. Obey the 3 obediences and 4 virtues, neither jealous nor envious. Article 2. Su Rufeng read all 21 articles from top to bottom. During this time, the Great Hall was as quiet as a tomb, and the venerable lord did not interrupt her, which made her feel even more uneasy, sending shivers down her spine. However, after she finished reading, the palace lord was extremely happy, actually tilting her head and leaning close to the venerable lord, saying playfully, Oh, what do you think of our Hehuan Palace's rules? Su Rufeng. Sometimes, she truly admired her palace lord's brazenness. A faint smile suddenly bloomed on Chengyu's cold and elegant face, like spring light suddenly appearing, melting ice and snow in an instant. Very good. Chihuan was momentarily captivated by his radiant beauty and actually became a little shy, fidgeting as she said, Oh, you. Actually, these rules of mine are for ordinary male consorts, but you're different. You're my precious white moonlight. So let's skip the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Just being virtuous is enough, what do you say? Chengyu's smile remained undiminished on his face. His strong, bony fingers slowly pinched her right ear. Very calmly, he uttered 6 words. I think your skin is itching for a beating. Chihuan was led back to the bedchamber by Chengyu, who was holding her by the ear. All the way, Chihuan wailed and fussed nonstop. Ouch! So painful! So painful, you be gentler. Ooh, this tiger's ears are going to be pulled off by you. Chengyu was completely unmoved by her caterwauling, directly dragging her into the room. The 2 little cubs saw the scene and quickly trotted after them, scurrying into the room, afraid their father would lock them out if they were a moment too late. Sure enough, the next moment the entire room was sealed off by a barrier. Chihuan's ears finally found liberation. As soon as she could move freely, she immediately covered her ears and ran towards the bed, but was caught by Chengyu, who pinched the back of her neck and dragged her back. Where are you going? Chengyu lowered his gaze, looking down at her. Chihuan, held by him with one hand like a little chick, pitifully raised her head. You, I want to sleep. Chengyu's eyebrows narrowed slightly. Do you think you'll get to sleep in the bed tonight? Chihuan blinked her big eyes, looking at him innocently. If not in bed, where will I sleep? Chengyu waved his wide sleeve. Chihuan followed his movement with her gaze, only to see a washboard instantly appear on the ground. Go and kneel on it properly, Chengyu commanded blandly, pointing with his fair hand. Chihuan puffed out her cheeks, stiffened her neck, and angrily cried. This is too much. How can I, the dignified palace lord of Hehuan Palace, kneel on a washboard? Chengyu raised an eyebrow, his dark eyes seemingly smiling. Chihuan's heart trembled. She timidly pulled back her neck, moved in front of him, stealthily clawed at his sleeve corner, and looked up, sweetly saying, You, how can a girl like me kneel on a washboard? Chengyu casually pulled his sleeve away. Will you go yourself? Or shall I do it personally? Chihuan's face crumpled like a bitter gourd. She looked at him, as graceful and elegant as a jade tree, then at the washboard on the ground, and unwillingly let out an "oh" sound. Shoulders slumped, she obediently knelt on the washboard, muttering a stream of complaints. "Oomph, all you do is punish me every day. What did I do wrong to make me kneel on a washboard? Why don't you reflect on yourself? Can't you be a little gentler with me?" Hearing this, Chengyu sneered, raised a finger to conjure a chair in front of her, walked over, and gracefully sat down. "So, you're feeling wrong now?" Chihuan huddled into a ball, kneeling on the washboard, and, as if going all out, protested loudly with her neck craned. "Of course I am. Didn't I just make a small suggestion? Why are you making me kneel on a washboard? It's fine that you like to act aloof, but you won't even let me eat meat. Are you trying to starve the cubs to death?" Chengyu listened to her babbling accusations, only responding with two bland words. "Kneel straight." Chihuan's breath caught in her throat, her eyes bulged, but she stubbornly refused to obey him. Chengyu looked at her with an indifferent gaze, as if watching an unthinking child. A ruler slowly appeared in his fair, slender right hand. "I warned you long ago. If you're not honest again, I have plenty of ways to deal with you." Chihuan's eyes almost popped out at the sight of the ruler. Her body directly tilted backward. What are you doing?" Chengyu held the end of the ruler with his knuckles, not intending to waste words with her, only saying blandly, "Hold out your hand." His sitting posture was always elegant, his white sleeves spread out, truly more like an immortal master than an immortal master. But Chihuan had no time to appreciate his beauty at the moment. She stared at Chengyu for a long while, then decisively sprang up with a tiger-like leap and turned to run. Only halfway through her escape did she remember that the bedchamber had already been sealed by Chengyu's barrier. But behind her, Chengyu had already risen, leisurely twirling the ruler as he walked toward her. Chihuan saw him, didn't say a word, and quickly started running, not forgetting to shout, "Don't you come over! I'm telling you, a corner dog will jump over a wall, let alone our cubs. Don't push me." However, no matter how she bounced around, Chengyu calmly followed her. He didn't even bother to use magic, just watch her jump about, which was somewhat amusing. Poor Chihuan looked like she was about to cry, without tears. Oh, she was so mischievous when she was little, but her mother never had the heart to whip her. Now that she's grown up, she's being chased and beaten by her own husband with a ruler. What kind of earthly suffering is this? The two little cubs, seeing their parents playing chase and hide, thought it was a game. They happily ran over, yelping as they scurried around with their mother. Thus, in a large bedchamber, the family of four chased each other, a truly comical sight. Especially Chihuan and the two little cubs, circling the room in a chaotic whirl, while Chengyu remained utterly composed. Here, Chihuan shouted and yelled as she jumped from the bed to the floor, then from the floor back to the bed. Finally, she couldn't bounce anymore and simply lay flat, sticking out her tongue. "I can't anymore, I'm so tired." The two little cubs, however, were full of energy, still circling her, seemingly not having played enough. Chihuan had no mind to bother with them, only watched as that person gracefully approached the bedside, the silver ruler reflecting his slightly rippling eyes and brows. "Go on, keep running." "Chihuan, why does that sound so familiar?" "Will you, please spare me. I truly know I was wrong." Chihuan made a snap decision, having no other choice but to cling to his leg, and the kind where she really clung on tight. She was seen leaping from the bed, rushing over, and without a care, burrowing in his waist, then clinging tightly to his long, straight leg. I'll never dare again." Chengyu's posture remained perfectly straight, completely unaffected by her. He idly twirled the ruler in his hand, his clear, cold voice tinged with a hint of laziness. "Never dare, what again?" Chihuan eagerly looked up, feeling immensely wronged in her heart. "Never dare to make you uphold the 3 obediences and 4 virtues again." Chengyu raised an eyebrow. "And what else?" Chihuan paused. "What else?" Chengyu's cool fingertips touched her tear-streaked face, gently wiping away the hard-won tears she had squeezed out, saying very calmly, "What happened today fully proves your untamed, mischievous heart. Therefore, as punishment, you must attend morning court for a month." Chihuan's pupils constricted in shock. Exclamation point. I love to sleep in. Getting up so early every day. Do you want me to live or not?" "So, you choose to be spanked with a ruler?" Chengyu offered the option. Chihuan's eyes welled up with tears. I don't have an untamed, mischievous heart. I was just saying it for fun. Who told you not to let me touch you all the time? Without your nourishment, I'm almost withered." Chengyu's usually calm expression finally loosened slightly. A faint blush quietly crept up his earlobes. He truly didn't know how she could say such vulgar things with such a straightforward tone. His gaze darkened slightly. He waved his sleeve, putting the little tigers playing and rolling on the bed into their exclusive little den. Only after setting up a barrier did he reprimand her. "Can't you be a little more reserved when you talk in front of the children?" Chihuan's eyes darted around, looking at him. Suddenly, she let go of his waist, then threw her arms around his neck, and without waiting for him to react, she blocked his lips with various kisses. You let go. Chengyu's breath was disheveled from her kisses, and a blush spread from his earlobes. He had no choice but to pinch her neck and lift her away. Chihuan, meanwhile, looked disoriented. She licked her lips, still not satisfied, and whined to him. Well, you smell so good. Just give in to me. We haven't had fun in so long. If you weren't deliberately tempting me, how could I have come up with such a rotten idea? I deliberately tempted you? You did deliberately tempt me. You let me look but not eat. You're the most scheming. Chengyu's breath hitched slightly. So you can't control yourself, and you're blaming me instead? Not blaming you. Not blaming you. Chihuan coaxed repeatedly. You're already mine anyway. You must fulfill your duties as my consort. Chengyu's originally neat collar was tugged open by her, revealing his fair and alluring collarbones. Chihuan's eyes lit up. No longer able to control herself, she let out an AO and pounced on him, pushing him onto the bed. Early the next morning, when Wu Shi and others hurried to Hehuan Hall, as usual, the Honored One was already seated in the main position. What was surprising, however, was that their palace lord was actually present today, though she was currently ungracefully clinging to the Honored One's arm and dozing off. Seeing everyone had arrived, Chengyu closed his book, completely unaffected by the person beside him, and said clearly, "Let's begin." The few people were stunned. First, they looked at the Honored One, sitting upright and dignified, then glanced at the palace lord, who seemed desperate to burrow into the Honored One's sleeve to sleep soundly. They realized these two were like winter and summer, completely out of sync. It was fortunate that the Honored One could so nonchalantly discuss serious matters with them. Everyone secretly admired the Honored One's composure, silently presenting the accounts they had organized last night, tacitly making not a sound. But just then, the palace lord suddenly lifted her head and rubbed against him, eventually simply rolling into the Honored One's embrace, smacking her lips indistinctly. Yet one sentence was remarkably clear. I can't take it anymore, Wu. Everyone kept their eyes down, their expressions moving from shock to gossip to secretly smiling like ants. Seeing this, Chengyu's face completely chilled. He tossed the ledger in his hand onto the table, touched her with a cold fingertip, and directly froze her awake. Chihuan shivered and opened her eyes. After seeing clearly who was in front of her, she said displeasedly, "What are you doing?" She hated having her dreams interrupted the most. Chengyu's gaze swept over her blandly. "Sit properly." Chihuan puffed out her cheeks, glared at him, then unwillingly straightened up and sat down. Only then did she notice the junior disciples standing below. "When did you all arrive?" Chihuan asked in surprise. Did this group of people make no sound when entering? So many words. Chengyu shot her a sidelong glance. At this moment, everything about her irritated him. Chihuan had no awareness of being disliked and babbled on. "What's wrong with me asking? You're the one who insisted I come. Why won't you let me talk? Look at how tortured my subordinates are. Each one pale and emaciated. Are you abusing them?" The junior disciples below were deeply moved to see their palace lord so considerate of them. At the same time, they cautiously glanced at the Honored One, knowing that if such arrogant words came from their mouths, they would have long been tied up, gagged, and cast aside. This was also the reason why they had always revered the Honored One so much. In the Honored One style, action was taken without any unnecessary talk. "Shut up." Chengyu couldn't stand her rambling any longer. He frowned and reprimanded. "If you keep yapping, you can leave." "Really?" Chihuan's eyes lit up, and she squinted them in a smile. "It's not that I want to leave, it's you who told me to go out." After saying that, without waiting for his response, she quickly scooped up the little cub sleeping beside her and practically skipped out of the hall, taking 3 leaps with each step. Chengyu took a deep breath, pinched the bridge of his nose, and after a moment, looked at Wu Shi and the others, saying, "Never mind. You all may continue." At this moment, everyone wistfully watched their palace lord's elegant retreating figure, almost crying with envy. Is this the legendary preferential treatment? After finishing their lament, the group resignedly turned their heads and began to report on their work with a bitter expression. Yesterday, the bank's net income was 200,000 spirit stones, all of which have been deposited into the palace treasury. The Ximen sect sent an invitation this morning, saying that your senior disciple, Song Xiang, will visit tomorrow.